Good morning, everybody who's already joined us. We're going to get started in just a minute here, but I'm going to leave just another minute or two for people who are still trickling in, and then we'll get started. All right, we're going to go ahead and get to it. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's special live demo webinar event where you're going to learn about and we're going to get to see in action SaltStack's ability to enable continuous compliance and IT security at scale. This webinar is sponsored by SaltStack and is produced by ActualTech Media. I'm James Green with ActualTech Media, and I'm going to be moderating today's event. I'm going to be in the Q&A as we go throughout, and I'm going to work with Mehul at the end to do some Q&A. Also with us, as I just mentioned, is Mehul Revankar, who is a Senior Product Manager at SaltStack, and he's going to be doing today's demo, which I'm very excited about. And in just a minute here, we'll switch screens over to his, and I'll let him take it away. But I've got just a couple of real quick logistics things here before we get started. First thing is, especially since this is a demo webinar, we want this to be very educational and interactive, and so we want to take all your questions. So GoToWebinar control panel has a questions section where you can drop your questions in for us. I'm, like I said, going to be keeping an eye on those the whole time and try and answer some as we go. But then when Mehul gets done with the demo, we're going to take some of those questions live. So make sure you pop those in there. We'll collect all of them and take as many as we can. Second thing is at the end of this event, after we finish with the Q&A, we're going to be awarding a $100 Amazon gift card to one lucky attendee. That's live here on the event. So if you're watching this webinar on demand, I'm sorry to say the drawing has already taken place. But if you're on live right now, we're going to be giving that gift card away at the end of the event. Just so you know, if you are selected as the winner of the gift card, you can also opt to donate the value of that gift card to one of our selected charities instead. Lots of people have done that, and over the years, we've given thousands and thousands of dollars to these selected charities thanks to your generosity. So just wanted you to know that's an option as well. And if you want to peek at the prize terms and conditions for today's drawing and all of our drawings, if you go to events.actualtechmedia.com, scroll to the bottom and you'll find a link in the footer there to those. So that is all the logistics I've got for you. I'm going to pass it over to Mehul and we will go ahead and get started. Mehul, good morning.
Hey, good morning, James. Thank you for the introduction and thank you all for joining.
All right, here it comes and I'll let you know when we can see your screen. I can see it. Take it away.
Thank you. Good morning, all, and welcome. My name is Mehul Revankar. I'm a product manager here at SaltStack, building our SecOps solution. I'm super excited to talk about SaltStack SecOps, our new solution which helps you secure your infrastructure. A few slides I would like to go over and explain what we built and why we built it based on our research with our customers and analysts. And once I'm through my slides, I'll dive into the demo for the solution. So the first thing I want to talk about as part of our solution is the topic of remediation. As part of our product development and research, we talked to a lot of our customers, and one theme that was consistent in our research was a lot of organizations have a lot of tools in-house which claim to do the remediation, but they actually, essentially, what they actually do is they provide you with a report, either a CSV or an Excel sheet. You still have to go back and then figure out the manual steps or bash scripts, or maybe even procure additional tools to do the remediations. And there are a lot of vendors out there who have really got good at telling you, hey, you have all these security vulnerabilities and misconfigurations out there in your infrastructure, but they don't actually help you fix it. It's almost like telling you, hey, your house is on fire, but they don't actually help you put out that fire. And the second thing I want to talk about is that what we realize is there is a genuine disconnect between InfoSec and IT ops teams. And if you think about it, I mean, from a goals and priorities perspective for these teams, the IT ops team, their priority is to make sure all the systems are up and running. They're, There is minimal downtime. And if you need to deploy any changes, they need to be planned weeks, if not months in advance. And on this infosec side of things, they're always concerned about making sure all the systems are secure and compliant with all sorts of standards, from HIPAA to PCI to GDPR. And if something like Heartbleed comes out, they want to fix those or deploy these patches quickly. And planning usually takes a back seat. And this slide from Gartner accurately represents the challenges that most organizations face in their infrastructure. We always, the ask is from the security and the ops team is to go fast, but not slow us down. Don't, make sure the systems are stable so we don't break anything. And then about that, make sure everything is secure and compliant. And in our opinion, the only way you can achieve these goals or address these challenges is with automation. And with these challenges in mind, we built SaltStack SecOps. It's a single solution which you can use to both assess, remediate, and enforce security policies. And it's a single platform both the security and the ops teams can use. What you can do with this solution is you can come in and define a custom security policies based on industry standard guides such as CIS, DISASTIGs, and other SaltStack curated content. And we started off with SaltStack, configuration content, but eventually the product will also support additional types of content such as vulnerabilities, threat data, and so on. So you can come into this solution and define a policy for a group of targets that you care about, and you want to make sure they're secure, compliant, and so on. And you can then scan these assets with the policy that you just created. And the product was developed with role-based access controls in mind. So you can configure the solution so that the security teams can only run assessments across the assets that you have defined in the product, but they can't remediate these changes or make any changes to the system. So they can scan the infrastructure for vulnerabilities, misconfigurations, compliance violations, and so on. And then finally, you could also remediate these items within the single solution. There is no more passing off Excel sheets or reports to the ops team. Hey, we found all these vulnerabilities, go fix them. You can do all of that within the same solution. And when I get into the demo, I'll demonstrate how all of that would work. The remediation, you can also remediate with this solution. So the ops teams, once they get a report, or once the security teams runs the scan, they can come in and remediate the findings that they have found on their assets. And most importantly, this product will also allow you to enforce the policies that you've just created on a continual basis, so that if the systems ever go out of compliance, they're put back into compliance so that you achieve a state of always compliant and always secure. So those are the quick slides I wanted to get through. Now let me dive into the demo for the solution. So James, let me know when you can see this.
I can see it. Looks good.
Okay, so super. So this is SaltStack. SaltStack. So what you're seeing is the landing page for SaltStack SecOps. So this is the solution which will help your organization, which will help you secure your organization. So it has some high-level summary on what you've done with the product, high-level compliance summary. For example, 800.171, 853 PCI, and so on. And then a summary of all the assessments that you've done with the product. The other thing I wanted to show you is the minion screen. So every asset that is managed by SaltStack will show up here. And then at this point, you can start to define your assets that you want to target to secure them. So for example, you could say, I want to create my Linux targets, Linux CentOS targets. And what we do is we allow you to select targets based on attributes such as, BIOS version, kernel version, IP address, operating systems, and so on and so forth. So yeah, approximately we ship about 100 of these attributes that you can target your systems on. So let's take an operating system for this case. And then you can also add criterias for targeting. So you could do an AND or not operation for the target group as well. So let's say Salt version 29.2.0, and then save. So now that you have a target group, you can start to do assessments and remediations on these targets. The other thing I want to touch upon is the role-based access control for this solution. So before the webinar, I created a few roles to use. So I created a security role. Notice the security role has the ability to create, edit, and delete SecOps policies, but they cannot remediate any of them. And then once you create this role, you would assign it to a security person such as Sam, who has the security role. So the Sam can come in and run as many policies as he or she wants. And the second role I created was the operations role. And notice the operations role does not have the ability to create or delete policies, but they can remediate the findings that the security person or engineer has found. If you want, you can also configure this in such a way that the ops team can also create policies, so they can be proactive in fixing the vulnerabilities and configuration issues that they find on the system. So before even the security teams comes back to them and tells them, hey, you have all these misconfigurations or compliance violations on your systems, you can actually do an assessment on your own and then also remediate them from there. So at that point, let me log out from my system admin role and log in as the security person and take it from here. And I'm hoping my demo gods are kind to me today. Okay, good.
Looks like you made all the appropriate sacrifices.
Okay, great. So, so now we are looking at what Sam has access to. So before the webinar, I gave Sam the access to the SaltStack New York office target group. So I created a target group for my New York office, and now Sam has access to this particular group. And what you can do at this point is you can start to create a policy. And notice, Sam only has access to the New York office target group. The all minions is a catch-all for only the assets or targets Sam has access to. So this is not across the infrastructure. This is a very small subset of assets Sam has access to. So you can select the target group here. Next up, we ship a lot of content with the product. All the content, for example, CIS content is shipped with the product, and this content comes in as a feed with the product. So you don't have to upgrade your install. You just have to download the latest content, and it magically shows up here. And SaltStack builds and ensures this content is accurate as part of our development and engineering effort. So you would come in here, select the content that you want to run across these assets, and then select the controls that you want to apply on this asset. So for example, in this case, we started with a CIS benchmark, which had about 200 plus individual controls that CIS wants you to apply to a CentOS box. And at this point, what you can do is you can, the one feedback we have consistently heard from our customers is that, they want to start off with CIS, but they want to make their own modification or maybe exclude some of the things CIS recommends and make a custom policy to fit their needs. So you could disable all the checks that CIS recommends, and let's say you just care about the SSH controls here. So you can create your own policy here from this screen, which only enables the SSH checks. And every control or every check that we ship with the product comes with a lot of metadata to go along with it. For example, the description, the operating systems it's applicable to, and the compliance cross-references it's applicable to. So just because you did this, we also provide you insight into, by the way, just because you ran these or you assessed for these controls, you're also getting compliance for 800.171 control or requirement 3.1.7, 856 AC6, which talks about least privilege, and so on and so forth. And CIS controls as well. For example, this directly maps to CIS control 16. And then we also expose the salt state logic that we will use to perform the assessments and remediations for this policy. Once you select the checks that you want to create your own custom policy, we'll ask you for some variables. So variables are a way for you to configure the policy either stricter or lax than what CIS recommends. So without even touching a single line of code, you can make changes here. For example, if you want to make it the grace time to be 120, you can do that here. Or if you want to limit the number of max auth tries than what CIS recommends to be more stricter, you can do that here as well. And then finally, you can decide to run this policy on schedule or on demand. When you save the policy, everything will come back as unknown because we haven't run an assessment on this policy yet. So let's go ahead and run an assessment and see what happens. And notice so we're logged in here as the security person. So that person can create and create these policies, but they cannot remediate at all because they don't have the permissions. And in a minute, I'll log into the ops side and show how the remediation will work. So let's go ahead and run an assessment and see what happens. So I started the assessment, so it's going to take a few minutes. I ran an assessment before joining this webinar. So let's review what comes typically you would see come back. So this is what would typically come back from your assessment. So we provide a list of all the controls that either are compliant or not compliant. And you can look at the same data from two perspectives. One is the checks level view. So these are all the controls that you selected as part of your policy. And these are the statuses for them, compliant, not compliant. There are also cases where it is not applicable. For example, you could have a situation where, the requirement would be to, make sure Apache is configured in a certain way. But if Apache is not even installed, this control is not going to be applicable at all. So in those cases, we'll just flag it as not applicable because Apache is not even installed. And you can look at the same data from Minion's perspective. So it's the same data, and we provide the Minion ID and the status for compliant or not compliant, not applicable, and so on and so forth. So let's go back and see if our results came back. Okay, great. So we ran the SAM's policy, and SAM has found out that there are multiple systems that are out of compliance. So at this point, our operations persons, let's call that person Ollie, would log in, and I guess I have to make some more sacrifices for the demo gods here. Okay, good. Okay, great. So now Ollie has logged in here. And notice Ollie doesn't have the permission to create the policies because we did not provide Ollie the permission to create policies. But all you can come in here and start to remediate from here. So in this case, yeah, there are some systems here that have some items that are not compliant. You could say just remediate from here. And what that does is it goes ahead and applies the remediation. And the remediation, like I said, is all, we are very, one of the goals for this product was to be very transparent in what we do. So the remediation logic is out there in the product itself, so you can review what is going to happen, what we are going to change, and so on and so forth. So we ran the remediation, and now remediation is complete. So let's go back and see the results from the last remediation. So, one of the things our customers have asked for is they want some level of visual insight in what changed. So here you could look at all the changes that we made. So if you look at the last assessment, the assessment will tell you these are the changes we'll be making to your system as part of the remediation. And once the remediation completes, you can also look at the diffs for those changes. The other thing you can do, so that completes remediation. You could also do, if you want, you could also do remediate all, and that's going to go ahead and remediate everything. But before you do that, I do want to touch on one additional thing that I wanted to cover here as part of our demo is the ability to add exemptions. There are a lot of situations where even though a control is not compliant, it is required to be set that way because there's a legitimate business reason to make to allow that to happen. And one common example is root login, right? So there might be a valid business reason for which you will have to file an exemption. So you can file an exemption here, and once you file an exemption, those items do not get remediated. And as I go through this demo, one thing I want to touch upon is then, you're seeing this demo from, perhaps I did not provide the permissions to exempt to Ollie. Even though you're seeing this demo from the UI, the entire application is API driven. So, all the operations that you see here can actually be done by the API without any interaction with the UI. And then finally, we provide a report, and the report is available in JSON in JSON format, so you can modify this any way you want for executive level reporting. And then finally, the activity tab will provide a complete audit trail on who changed what when. So for example, Sam did the assessment, Ollie ran the remediation, and then you can look at all the JID or the job ID and look at the complete raw data that comes back. Maybe you want to put this in Splunk, Elasticsearch, or something on those lines and analyze this a bit more from there. So it's complete JSON data that you can analyze any way you see fit. So that concludes my demo and presentation, and I'll hand it back to James at this point and take questions.
Cool. So yeah, we got just a couple questions here, which I think actually you right at the end there answered some of these, but we'll take them anyway and we can talk them through, and then we'll give away a gift card before we go. So the first question was, can I integrate the RBAC configuration you showed us with AD? So I'm adding users via AD groups or something like that?
Yeah, so AD configuration is already built into the solution. So all you have to do is configure the AD, and once you configure the AD, the user will show up and then can configure the permissions any way you see fit.
Got it. Okay, cool. This is one that I think you kind of just answered, but the question is, can I get data out of the SaltStack console and into another tool for, a dashboard or something like that?
Yeah, like I said, this was, from a design perspective, we're super focused on making sure the data is consumable, and because a lot of customers use Domo or Tableau for their analysis and business insights, right? So, we provide a JSON report of every assessment or remediation, and you can pull this into any solution that you have and draw insights from there.
Good deal. At the end there, you were showing us how if something is out of compliance, but there's a legitimate business reason for it, you can create an exception or exemption. I don't remember what the word was. Exemption for that piece that's out of compliance. Is there, or could there possibly be at some point a way to require a approval, like from a different role, to create that exemption?
A great question. So the way we designed this, you can configure the solution so that only certain users can file for an exemption. So the thing we were mindful of was to not allow users to willy-nilly exempt themselves from all the requirements and be compliant without being compliant. So yes, you can configure the solution so that only certain users have the ability to file for exemptions. And once you have filed for exemptions, you can easily integrate this with the risk management solution so that there's an approval process put in place before those exemptions are accepted.
Got it. Okay. And then one more question. This one's from me before I give away the gift card. If people want to check this out even further, what would you recommend they do?
So I would recommend you go to our website, saltstack.com/SecOps, and register there. And then once you register, you can either ask for a trial or work with one of our sales and support teams, and we'll help you there from there.
Good. Okay. If you still have any questions that we were not able to get to, make sure and still drop those in the questions panel. We'll be able to follow up even after the event is over. We want to make sure that everybody gets their questions answered. So feel free to do that if there's something you're still wondering about that we missed. Last thing before we go, I've got a gift card to give away. It's a $100 Amazon.com gift card. That's going to go to a live attendee, Ellie Tran. Ellie, congratulations. We will be reaching out after the event to get that delivered for you. Also, you have the option to donate it to one of our selected charities if you'd like to do that. And to everybody, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. The webinar will be available on demand if you want to watch this again, kind of slow down, scrub through some of the stuff that Mehul showed us, and that'll be ready pretty soon. Mehul, thank you so much for showing us this today. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It was fun. Thank you.
Alrighty, have a great day, everybody.